Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I will be taking a look at X-Mag number 5 from Piao 2. Piao for, I don't know, 10, 15 years was putting out so much cool stuff. Really great small press publisher. X-Mag was their kind of company Anthology. They closed up shop like a year ago, and then I guess someone else took over, but it still looks like Patrick Cruddy is part of this, and I know he was one of the at least two people running the original Piao. So taking off the dust cover here, I like all of this better than the dust cover. The dust cover looks like Amano, is that the artist's name that did Vampire Hunter D? It kind of looks like that, but I don't think it is. But then this cover in here with all the gold foil stamping and this illustration, really dig that. So this is one of those where the dust cover's not gonna make it. Also get some posters on the inside here. You can tell probably already by what I'm showing that the theme of this particular anthology is vampires. This airbrushed looking 1990s vampire guy here is pretty sick. But yeah, X-Mag always has a genre that is the kind of theme for the anthology. And so this one is based on the vampires. And the other thing that they always do is they always pick two spot colors, and that is what's used in their printing. I don't think these are risographs, though. These are offset productions, because they always give you the Pantone code for the inks, which, as far as I know, means that they're working with offset. What's really cool in this one is on the title page, they basically show every different way that you could combine colors in a spot color job. So they have things where the red is trapped and is not printing on top of the black. They have things where the red is not trapped and it's printing on top of the black. They have something where the things gradate one into the other. They have, this is rendered more as a diffusion dither. This has a dot tone on it. So they're showing you really like what they're doing as publishers, and they deserve the credit for being really attentive to production. And that's what's part of what always made Piao great. And so it's really great to see that the new crew is taking that same approach. Anyways, on to the stories. I don't want to give anything away about the stories like normal with an anthology. I just want to show you a spread from each artist and give you a sense of what the book is, because I think it's really cool. Really beautiful page here. I'm not sure who this is by. They don't give an artist. Well, I'm not going to find it very quickly. But really beautiful image here where it's all been printed in red. The first story here is by Theo Stoltz. It's called Oh Marielle, and it has a kind of doppelganger-like story. It reminds me of that Krepak story where there's a doppelganger that takes over for Valentina. But some really cool art in this one. A good mix of like these pencil, and then it looks like a wash look, and then maybe some computer gradients as well. So a combination of a lot of different things. I'm not the biggest fan of black and red as a combo when they start like watering the red down into the pinks. I know there's a lot of like legacy industry stuff, the like Deadpool black, white, and red. Like Batman black and white or Batman black, white, and red. That used to be cool when it like the black and white was treated as black and white. The spot colors in these things where it's computer done and we've got all these gradients aren't as appealing to me. And so it's interesting to see different artists use all these different tricks throughout this and different ways that they come together. So I'm not saying like this Theo Stoltz one is bad art. It's good art. It's just my preference for the way these two colors get mixed. Like if this was in a orange and a purple or something, it would be completely different. But something about once you put the black in there, it's not really a color, and you can't color mix with it in the same way. It just doesn't look quite as nice. This is Malice's Mouth by Mel Toe. You see in this one, Mel is leaning more on dot tones for most of the grays. A strange thing here, which also I don't like most of the time, which is having a gradient printed where you can't see the dots with dots over top of it. They're both printed out of dots, obviously, but I think it's kind of a strange look. This is nice with just this big shock of red coming over the top. For me, when I see a black, white, and red book, it's those solid reds that I think are graphically really compelling. Or like in the case of this Adam D'Souza piece, Zoonosis. And Adam D'Souza, I just did a review recently on his book, The Gulf. Really enjoyed that book, so was excited to see another piece and something more playful and fantastical. But you can see what D'Souza does is uses the red as the second spot value. So it's laid in more flat and it's used as a basically gray. There's a little bit where the pink gets a little bit darker, but I think that's a really visually effective way of doing the black, white, and red, as well as not trying to mix the two, but using it as a flat value. This piece here is by Tyler Landry. I recently just reviewed his book, Old Caves, out from Uncivilized Press, and really enjoyed that book. This one, Gravissimus Vir, has a lot of nice lighting tricks in it. And this is one where there is some variation in the red, but again, it's presented flat. And so to me, that works very graphically. And then in here, there's a lot of this like busted up tone. So I'm assuming this is a brush that reproduces like the look of old tone that wasn't perfect. And I think that's used to really great effect create the lighting throughout here, even in a sequence like this where the color drops away for everywhere, but in the eyes, the way it's used here where there's no dot tones and it's balanced against the gray, the big solid red slowly getting lighter. I think Tyler Landry made a lot of really smart choices about how to combine these two things, and it makes for a beautiful looking little story. This is called Times Have Changed by Akino Kogumi. This is another one where there are some more computer-like gradients involved, but because I think it's not really mixing with the black and it's mostly solid reds throughout, it works really, really well. And then again, the grays themselves are put in flat. So there's a synchronization between how those colors are being treated. But this, I think, is an absolutely stunning and beautiful illustration right there. This story is called Paper Cut. It's by Ryan Plaisance and Morgan Nix. And it has a to be continued at the bottom, which I find strange since this is an anthology, but maybe Piao has plans for another X-Mag and they know how they're going to shift the genre. I'm not sure. This one, you can see that there's not really any of the pink on this page at least, but a lot of interesting work with the tones. It's also interesting to see where artists are using like Photoshop tones where you're not getting actual dots, you're getting more like these little cross patterns, and which artists are using real dot tones. This story is by Caro Spirali and is called Circle of the Moon. This one's a good example of where I think the use of the computer and having these bursts of red kind of fade out over top of the gray shows that it just makes a color that's unpleasant to me. I don't know if other people find that color pleasant, but the mix of the red and the gray over top of the gray just doesn't work for me as much. And I think this is probably the best example of that in the book. This is La Blood by Luca Oliveri. I like this quote here especially. This is, "Power, as they say, begets power. Should one relinquish the desire to pursue it, they become oddly resistant." And that's something me and Tori have been talking about a lot, like claiming your own power and standing up for yourself, but not being in the game of power. And yeah, you really do kind of become resistant when someone can't offer you something that you can't already give yourself. This is an interesting feature that I don't remember in previous X-Mags, but where you have an actual short story written. This is by Jane Mai, and then there's some illustrations to go with it. This one actually surprisingly mixes the gray and the black very well to create like a painted look, but it's so much work being done to mix the two. It's not just like a simple computer burst or something on top of it. This one surprisingly really, really works well for me. This is called The Vampire Hunter's Dilemma by Nosmo. This one has, again, a combination of like these flat reds and then a lot of the tones in the blacks. I think that one works really well and is effective. There's a particularly interesting effect here where there was a dot tone put down and then there are pink lines like trapping the dot tone so it doesn't show through, and it makes for a very kind of strange optical effect. That kind of play really fascinates me, especially when you're doing spot color jobs like this. I think a lot of people are missing out on the opportunities for optical illusions, that dots produce kind of a glitter to them that a flat tone doesn't produce, and that there's other things you can do with that. And yeah, it's nice to see someone doing that in a book. This is Into the Line by Marco K. Gavez. Kind of a cool, it almost looks like Blame or a manga like that. Blood Kiss by Tia Roger. Tia Roger is an artist. I've reviewed some of her stuff before, an artist I find very compelling and very interesting. So another person I was really excited to see show up in here. I like in this one that the red is also used to create like a flashback type of look here. So you get the red line work and the tones. But this one has some really nice combinations of the black and white, and it looks like was done with watercolor, so there's a softness to the application of the gradients. It doesn't look so computer done there. It has a more delicate feel. Really nice. This might be hard to see on screen because it's such thin, delicate line work. You can get a close-up here of what's going on the face, but this is just a one image piece by Takato Yamamoto called Nosferatu, and these are underdrawings for something, I guess. But oh, actually, there's some more here. Yeah, these are underdrawings for some other project, but really beautiful, reproduced in the red. And then by far my favorite piece in this one is the final one by Matthew Houston, The Long Penance. And it's done in this old kind of like Renaissance, not Renaissance, but like illuminated manuscript, like really, really going back. I think like illustrations for Chaucer, pre-Renaissance. Really, really cool type of graphics all throughout. A lot of nice patterning. Everything's flattened down to these flat cartoony shapes, and so there's beautiful shape work all throughout. I mean, to make a composition like this with so many shapes all flat, still have some sense of depth, but because of scale and overlap, but it really have this intricate puzzle piece, like where you could see this almost like cut out and put together like little pieces of wood or something like that. It's just a really, really beautiful look. And even though it seems like the illuminated manuscript that has some of that like Celtic patterning, and I don't know, there's also things that feel from other cultures. Like there's stuff that feels a bit like the dots you get in Aboriginal art or going to some Native American arts. So it's a really, really strange mix in this one. It's tempting also to think that this is repetitious border put on the outside, but it's not. Like each one of these pages, that border is actually something else. I have no idea how much you can actually go in there and associate this with what's going on in the story. Like, I don't know if these are weapons that they're holding or if this is merely just patterning, but because it's like different in each one, there is a real suggestion that there's some link between this and this. And I think that's a really fascinating way to approach comics as well, that you could take these decorative borders, but they're also split up into panels. And they may not have sequential meaning, but they might have some kind of symbolic resonance or something like that. Very different way of combining the pictures together to make meaning. And then the other thing that's fun that X-Mag does in every volume is they have these little artist interview cards that the artists fill out. They obviously fill them out. They have their handwriting on there. They fill them out by hand. They do a little sketch in there. They answer some questions. So that's a fun feature that's more than just like, this is how to get them on social media if you like their work. But there's a lot more information about them. So as always, X-Mag is full of all kinds of great art, great production, really cool production tricks. You can see here they're telling you they're using black and Pantone number 2035, which is this red. That's why I'm saying this is not a risograph. This is an offset production. And because it's an offset production, you get that much higher fidelity in the artwork as well. You can handle things like the dot tones to perfection. So Piao always does stunning work. Their books are something that's influencing a lot of what I'm trying to do with my work now in terms of, like I said, using spot colors for optical illusions and things. So very glad that Piao's back. Very excited about X-Mag number 5, and then you should definitely go out and get it and throw Piao your support. Let's keep them going.